back to another episode of Big G's Backyard Motorcycle Restoration. It's mid-March here in Maryland. The weather's been crazy. We had tornado warnings today, been raining a lot, very foggy. So haven't been doing a lot of work outside, keeping the bike here under cover, but we've been doing a lot of work inside. Tires are on the wheels, courtesy of Nomad Moto Co. They did a great job. Definitely going to give them some more business. But the wheels were in terrible shape, so those have been cleaned up a little bit. We got a little bit more work to do there. Probably going to try to get the gas tank off here and clean that out inside as well. And, you know, this will be a cleaning episode. So thanks for joining us again, and let's see what we can get into. Well, guys, welcome to my basement workshop. This is in my 100-plus-year-old farmhouse. Yes, this year it's 102 here in Baltimore. So you might notice in the background there's stacked stone foundation, which, yes, sometimes in a heavy rain can leak like a sieve. But, you know, it's one of the things I'm working on here to try to minimize drainage issues, make sure that we don't overwhelm the French Drain and get flooding down here in the basement. But my workbench, you know, is still a work in progress. You can see, you know, I'm a Ryobi man when it comes to battery operated tools. I figure you got to pick one platform and go with it. So I've got it for indoor and outdoor tools. Got my batteries there with the trickle charger, one for the Vespa there that's hooked up now, but also the new battery for the Yamaha as well. But you also see here in the middle, of course, my handy dandy ultrasonic cleaner. So I've never used this before, but seems to be all the rage on all the other platforms. You know, people are showing how you can use this to degrease, to get the crud out of carburetors. You can, but also even rust removal. So we're going to try two different things here. It's a 15-liter ultrasonic cleaner, which takes up a lot of space. What I've done is just fill it with water, but I'm going to use this, there was a chip in this glass container that I have here, you know, that I had for food prep. So there's a little chip, and I didn't want to use it anymore for that, but it's a nice little thing that I can put a mixture of Simple Greed Pro HD cleaner. That's the purple one, and it's safe for aluminum, you know, and other metals. So that's why it's popular with people working on motorcycles and other things like that. So I've got a mixture of that and water in the glass container, and we're going to go ahead and put it inside the ultrasonic cleaner. And so we'll have the benefit of heat and the ultrasonic bubbles to see if that can, you know, degrease some of these things that we took off of the Yamaha last time. And then also we're going to get rid of that degreasing solution and then create a rust removal solution. Like it'll just be a vapor rust. So, and that apparently benefits from the heat. And the ultrasonic cleaning technology doesn't hurt it either. So we're going to try that out today and see how it goes. So what I've done here is I've got the ultrasonic cleaner turned on. I've got it set up to 75 degrees Celsius. So that's going to be not quite boiling, but it, you know, it's going to get pretty warm. So it'll be hot water by the end. So that's going to heat up during the cycle. And we're going to try it for 15 minutes here. So I'm just going to take all these parts. I haven't done anything to them. You know, we've got everything, you know, that we took off of the motorcycle when we were getting the wheels off. Some of them are greasier than others. Some are more rusty. We've got, but it's all metal bits here. And, you know, it's all going to go back on the motorcycle later, but we're going to see if we can't get it as clean as possible before, you know, before putting it all back on. Starting with degreasing, we'll wipe it all off, and then we'll try getting the rust removed. So let's see what 15 minutes in the ultrasonic cleaner. So I'm just making a bath here, which I thought was a pretty genius idea, so I didn't have to use as much cleaning solution. It'll still work just as well with the ultrasonic technology, but not having to fill the tank completely with cleaning solution. So we're going to set this for 15 minutes and then see how it goes. So we're going to start by turning on the heat. We're going to let that warm up a little bit, and then we'll let it warm up as it goes, and then try 15 minutes on the ultrasonic cleaner. I'm going to pause here because the sound is kind of annoying, and I don't want to subject everybody to that for too long. So I think I'm going to decide to take it off just for 5 minutes and see what that'll do. I'm going to leave the heater on for the rust removal a bit later. I'm just going to take this out. Let's look maybe at a couple pieces here and see how well the rust got removed in such a brief period of time in the ultrasonic, or the grease came off or the oil came off in this brief time in the ultrasonic cleaner. So this was completely covered in grease and oil, and now looks, I thought maybe it was even rusted, but now it's almost entirely clean in just 5 minutes, in the ultrasonic cleaner. And the Simple Green Pro HD cleaner, was maybe like a 5-to-1 mixture here, not a super strong mixture here. I'm having to get a little bit off of there, but I mean, honestly, it is way, way, way better. And all of these pieces are pretty much grease and oil free, buildup free at this point. I see a little oxidation, and that maybe even a bit of rust here or there, but I think for the most part, we're going to see that go away with the evaporust a bit later. But as far as degreasing ultrasonic cleaner, I'm a believer. This is wild how quickly and easily that was done. I can put up with a little bit of annoying buzzing from the ultrasonic cleaner to get these kinds of results. I got this on eBay. It's the Vivor digital ultrasonic cleaner, though I think on eBay it was actually listed as a different brand. But Vivor is something I've bought some of their products before and have worked fine. But as I said, this is the 15-liter unit, so hopefully it'll be large enough later to handle, carb parts and things that are a little bit larger that we might just put directly in the tank, directly in the basket there. So I don't think I'm going to run this anymore. I mean, what I have left on these pieces is rust. And so, we're going to go ahead, obviously, and do a rust treatment here in a little bit and see how that goes. But these parts look so much better. Just 5 minutes in the ultrasonic cleaner. So really good stuff, really happy with it. So we'll come back in a minute and look at maybe some rust product here and go from there. All right, guys, I've cleaned off all these parts here, and even at the wire brush with them a little bit, and as I said before, this was very, very greasy. Not so much anymore. So pretty pleased with how that turned out. Sorry, I know lighting's not the best here down in my dark basement, but we're going to do the best we can. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to use CRC's Evaporust. Just going to pour it directly in here. This says on the back, it is safe for all types of mild steel and iron. No scrubbing, no sanding. It won't harm sensitive materials like copper, brass, aluminum, plastic, rubber, vinyl. Just pour, soak, rinse, and reuse. So be able to, not going to put it back in the gallon, but I'm just going to try to pour in, I'm going to put the items in the bottom here and then just pour in what we need to cover it. And some of these pieces, this one it wasn't rusty at all, so I'm not going to put that in the vapor rust. Screw it, I'll put it in there. And see if this chelation removes the rust and turns these all into shiny objects. So we're going to give this a shot, see how it goes. And get this sort of, I don't know, yellowish Gatorade, lemon lime Gatorade looking liquid. Just going to give that a shake to kind of make sure it gets all the way down in there, and it's covering everything. So we're going to see how this goes, and again, we'll try to keep this later for future cleaning. Let's see what 10 minutes will do. Again, we're only up to 46 degrees Celsius. Again, we're over 100 degrees here, but no, not nearly to the hottest possible temperature. So we'll see if that makes a difference. If it doesn't work as well, maybe we'll wait for it to heat up a little bit more and, go from there and see what we can figure out. All right, so the 10 minutes in the evapor rust, in kind of mid 50s Celsius. Put gloves on here, didn't want to touch the evapor rust directly. This was probably one of the rustier pieces. It's not completely rust-free at this time. This had a lot of, it was very dingy. This is, parts of it are getting much better already. The water, of course, you can see is pretty nasty here. I'm not going to put this back in. There's no real rust on this because I'm pretty sure that's aluminum, but I'm seeing far less rust on the threads of these bolts as the ultrasonic cleaner is getting way in there. This is an almost rust-free item at this point and very clean, so happy with that. Again, I'm seeing vast improvement just from 10 minutes. These are getting much better. Kind of taking away some of the oxidation on the surface, and so we can actually get to where the rust is to be able to get it off there. The water is very dirty. So the rust is definitely coming off into the solution, even in this brief period of time. So I'm not going to put these guys back in. That's perfect. This needs a little bit of shining up, which we'll try to work on a little bit later, but pretty pleased at how just 10 minutes in the evapor rust has done so far. Some pieces clearly need a little more time. I'm not going to put in this guy either. Again, doesn't really need any more help at this point. Or this one. Again, we're not going for perfection here. We're just looking for it to look a little nicer. So that once we get it running, we can be proud of the way it looks too. So I think we're going to give it another 15 minutes here and come back and see what difference that made with these rusty bits here. And then, this is a solution that normally they suggest leaving 12 to 24 hours. So we might just do that with the most stubborn pieces and then just come back tomorrow and see if they've gotten any better. So let's try another 15 minutes in the ultrasonic cleaner with the evapor rust, and see how it goes. All right, we've had another 15 minutes here with the evapor rust in the ultrasonic cleaner. Let's see what sort of results we've had. That's rust-free. There's a little bit of buildup on it, but it's not rust. Totally got it out of the threads there, so that's good. This washer, almost completely rust-free, but we'll set that aside, see if it converts or cleans it off overnight. This is completely rust-free, which I'm very excited about. This was probably the rustiest piece because this nut getting the wheel off, part of it has been chipped. It's been wrenched on a bunch of times. It definitely had the most damage. This is rust-free now. I mean, there was rust on the top, and now it's gone. So that's fantastic. This one had a little bit more rust, but some of it's gone, but not all of it. So we're going to put that guy back in. This washer, rust-free. This nut was pretty rusty, even into the threads. You know, done. It's over. No more rust. A little rust on the top of this guy, but the washer that goes with it is rust-free. So we're going to put that guy back in there. This washer's rust-free. So pretty good results for most of it in that period of time. Just a tiny bit on this guy. And on these pieces, that's rust-free. You know, did pretty well with most of the washers and the nuts here. And the bolts that weren't in the worst shape. So pretty stoked about the Evapo Rust here. This is good stuff. Highly recommend it with the combination of the ultrasonic cleaner. And again, I recommend this method where you're putting it in a glass container, so you don't need to, you know, fill the entire thing with Evapo Rust, because that would be pretty expensive and unnecessary, which is the other part. You know, why use more of these products, expensive products, than you need to? I mean, the ultrasonic cleaner is an investment in and of itself. I understand not everybody's going to have one, but as I said, this one I got way cheaper on eBay for some reason than the same model would have been, you know, at least $50 or more on Amazon than it was on eBay. So made out pretty well. I think with shipping it might have been $65 or something, as opposed to over $100 on eBay. So I'm going to put these guys back in there. It does say on the Evapo Rust to rinse things with water immediately. So what I did for, you know, and this is one good thing about having this silicone mat, is that I can just kind of pour stuff right here. These guys were already clean. I don't need, they never went in the Evapo Rust. But these guys, you know, I can just go ahead and kind of clean these off, bathe them here on this mat, and then dry them off real quick. And then, you know, just pour the mat off. So that's not so bad. Well, found a little more rust on this guy here underneath, so we'll put him back in the bath. But still, the rust is mostly gone from these items. Only the worst ones, you know, still had any issues. So we'll go ahead and dry these guys off, and they'll be done. And then, you know, tomorrow we should be able to come back and just see what the overnight process here in the Evapo Rust will bring about. And that'll be one more thing we can test for you to maybe try out yourself. All right, guys. So I told you I was taking these wheels to get new tires, new tubes, and my friend Kyle, new friend Kyle, just you know, I saw his truck on the way home one day. Realized, okay, Nomad Moto Co. It's a shop just over a mile from my house, just the road in next neighborhood over. He did a great job. Talked to him a little bit. You know, he used to work for a local Harley Davidson dealership. Has a lot of experience. Does a lot of custom stuff. And you know, I think I might give him some business in the future. Especially, he used to be an inspector. And even though it doesn't need to be inspected, you know, by a licensed state inspector to get a historic tag, you know, where it's more than, well, it's made from 1999 or earlier, obviously 1976. So don't need it inspected, but, you know, for safety purposes, I'm going to have him do that. And I also learned a valuable lesson. Don't, you know, this was a good job to have somebody else do, somebody who knew what they were doing. He had tire changing device, and because of the how stiff the rubber was, he could barely get the old tires off. And this guy's a professional. I could only imagine what sort of struggle I would have been in for had I tried to do it myself. But he also noted that, well, he tried to clean them up a little bit, but the aluminum was really tarnished. And it reminded me that, I kind of wanted to try out a few different things that I've seen online to try to clean up this aluminum somewhat. So he had mentioned steel wool and WD-40. So for some reason, I can only find a WD-40 pen. So I'm going to have to get more WD-40, but see if I can get some on here. Nope, that's pathetic. Okay, so we're going to try, a similar type product here. It's another so we're going to try a similar product here from PB Blaster. It's a lubricant as well, does the exact sort of thing that WD-40 does. And he said to put this on there to just so you don't have too much friction with the steel wool and against the aluminum, and that it should shine up pretty well. It actually, I did that a little bit on this piece here, and also got a little bit of 1000 grit sandpaper on it as well. And, it's starting to get there. And I haven't even gone to any polishing compounds or buffing wheel or anything like that, which we'll probably get into that at some point as well. So let me grab this lubricant and, we'll give it a shot. We'll see how it does on some of the built up tarnish on this wheel. Aha, so it's a PB Blaster Multi-Max, and it basically it says displaces moisture, stops squeaks, protects against corrosion, long-lasting lubrication. It sounds like WD-40. It looks like WD-40, and I think it pretty much is just the PB Blaster version of it. So okay, I'm just kind of getting the rim here, and it's already getting kind of this surface layer of grime off so that we could actually see that, the aluminum's in pretty decent shape underneath. So I'm already pretty pleased at this. And again, I think we're going to try, a few different methods to try to get these as clean as possible. Of course, it's going to be a little more difficult to get in there in between the spokes. And, we're not trying to make this showroom quality. We're not going to be entering these wheels in any kind of contest, but, we kind of want them to look nice for our own purposes, pride of ownership and all of that. And this is already going a long way to taking years and years of tarnish off of these wheels. So steel wool and a little lubricant, is getting quite a bit off of here. So obviously you want to make sure it stays well lubricated so you're not adding scratches and things to the wheel. Difficulty is going to be getting in these little crevices, and then we're going to try to get in here on this part here, and yeah, it's just getting a lot of this crud out is going to make a lot of difference. Now, I'm interested, once we get in here by the sprocket and the brakes, feel like this sort of looked even worse, but this is helping there as well. I think I'm going to try to get some of that Mother's Mag and aluminum finish and see how that goes. Maybe that will do even better. Seen good reviews on that. But, just getting these surface layers. Steel wool's not too bad. And because we are going to polish it later, I might even try to get some of that 1000 grit sandpaper in here and just try it on a few spots, see what it does. And of course, with the sandpaper, you can add a little bit of water for that as well. The sandpaper didn't do too bad. Let's try to do a little bit more. See if it can get in those little crevices. Get out that extra tarnish. 1000 might not be aggressive enough. So I've got, just an old Harbor Freight medium sanding sponge. All-purpose sanding sponge. I've had these for the better part of 20 years, just kind of a good all-purpose thing to have around. And I think for this first layer, this is actually going to be a bit better. I like it soft underneath, so it's a little bit easier on my hand. And yeah, we're getting quite a bit of tarnish off of here. Let's see how it does on this part. I might need to get some more heavy-duty sandpaper or maybe sanding wheel on here. Yeah, this inside part by, the drum brakes is going to be, I think, a little bit more of a challenge. But again, I'm not going to make it perfect, but we are definitely making it a whole heck of a lot better. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, again, I'm very happy with the service from Kyle over at Nomad Motoco. So it's good to, I told him a little bit about my project, what I was trying to do, and he seemed pretty enthusiastic about it. So I think if I ever had any questions or, needed an expert on certain things that I feel like I'm just not going to be able to do myself, I mean, if I can get the bike over to him, then, that would be good. But of course, he's also a mobile mechanic, so he can come right here to the house if need be and help me out with some of these things. And, I can give him a little business that allows him to stay independent, living out his dream of having his own shop. So that's pretty cool. So I think we'll come back to this when we've got some more materials, including, some, maybe polishing wheel and, some polishing compounds, including Mother's Mag and aluminum finish. But thanks for joining me on this one, guys, as we experimented a little bit. I'm going to keep working off camera here. All right, guys, back at it again. It's about 24 hours later. The Vapo rust is completely cleared up. This was totally black last night. And now that these pieces have had 24 hours to soak, we're seeing it come clear out of there. This one's got some buildup on it, but it's not rust. All the rust is gone. I gotta say, I wasn't expecting this good of a result out of a Vapo rust. Again, we saw good results with it plus the heat of the ultrasonic cleaner, but these are 100% better than they were going into all of this. So I'm going to move the Vapo rust aside, clean these guys up, because I also been trying out some polishing things off camera here just to see how it goes. And I've got a few different things. I got some polishing wheels to go with my drill. I've got the wheels came with some compounds, different compounds, sort of clay bars. And I also bought some Mother's Mag and aluminum polish to kind of see what we could use on some of these things to bring out a little extra shine. Most of these parts we don't really need to do that for, but this guy here kind of wanted to see what we could do to provide a little extra polish. And I've also been using it on one of our wheels, and I've had to try a couple of different things to get a result that I want. And again, as I've said before, not looking for a perfect result, not looking for a show quality result, because again, I just want it to look nice when I go and ride it around, and just not look dingy. So we're going to try this Mothers out. This is what a lot of people say, is sort of the secret sauce for getting, a high shine on these metal pieces, brings back chrome, all of these things. So, it's a very fine polishing cream. And you can see, that there's sort of black streaks developing here as it's rubbing tiny little bits of metal or buildup off of here. And I think it's doing a little bit of good here. I don't know if maybe it would do a little bit better with the polishing wheel to provide, a little bit more vigorous of a action than, I can get with just a shop towel and my arthritic fingers. But it is a little bit better. There's a little bit of shine there, enough that I'm probably going to be pretty satisfied with it. So let's hit it with a drill anyway and see how that goes. So just going to rub a little of the Mothers all around the wheel here. See how that goes. Oops, sorry guys. Not very professional, but never promised to be. Right. Can definitely see a difference in the areas in the middle that I hit with the Mothers and the wheel. It's a little harder to get the outside pieces, but I'm gonna give it a little more of a go, see if we can't get it shined up. Well, it's not perfect, guys, but that is more than respectable. I think I can just wipe off little bits of it here or there. Might be able to hit it a little bit more later, but it's shiny, it's clean, it's respectable. I'm very satisfied with that. Next, we're going to take a look at these wheels, kind of see what we've done so far, and and go from there. You know, maybe see if we could do a little bit more work on them and, you know, get them cleaned up a little bit more too. Let's pause and see what we can do with these wheels. All right. So we've still got quite a bit of buildup here. I mean, it's way better than the other wheel, which I haven't really worked as much on. But this side, I've been able to get a decent shine on here, you know. And again, I'm kind of using the 5-foot test here. If it looks good from afar, you know, from about 5 feet away, that's fine with me. You know, it's never going to have that perfect shine. These are 50-year-old wheels. They've gone 38,000 miles. I just want them to look decent. Clean the tires up. These, you know, this looks decent. Still have a lot of work to do in here. Not going to bother shining this up too much. That's going to be inside it. No one's ever going to see it. The other side, on the other hand, you know, you're not going to see as much behind the sprocket here, but I would like to see a little bit more of this buildup taken off. So some of the things I've been using a variety of different polishing wheels here with the drill. Tried the mothers, but I've also been using clay bars, polishing compounds, sometimes just rubbing it directly on here, or, you know, hitting it with the wheel but really getting into sort of the dingy areas so that then we can get it out with the wheel. And because, again, I'm not worried about taking a little metal off, I've also been using sanding block, you know, a foam sanding block that can get into these little corners. And that abrasive plus the polishing compound has really taken away some of this layer of buildup that we've seen. So I'm going to see what we can't do on this inner part here. You know, if we hit a little bit of that compound on here, you know, can we take another layer off there? That's just what I'm trying to do. Get a little layer off here or there. And let's see what we can do. Spin this guy around. Some good leverage. It's not too bad. Oop. Hit the camera. Found the part where I've got the clays right in here. It's taking a little bit more off. Well, let's hit it with that sanding block, see what happens here. Okay. The sanding block, again, is still doing wonders to get the remainder of this compound off, and with it, sort of a last layer of buildup that we weren't quite able to get off of that soft buffer. And because it's soft, it can really get in these edges here without, you know, without hitting the tire and possibly damaging our new shinkos here. And again, I don't think I mentioned these are Schinker 712s, which I was able to get a pair of them for under $200 and added in tubes and rim strips. $100 to my friend Kyle over there at Nomad Moto Co., which is every bit worth it considering how much trouble he had getting the old ones off. I never would have had a chance. So that was worth every penny. So it's just a little over $300 to get new tires, tubes, and rim strips on here. I'm hitting it with a little bit of 1000 grit just to really get in these edges here and polish these up just a little bit more. We're starting to see dividends here. Okay, getting through another layer here. It's not too bad. And then I think maybe just a little of the mothers there to just take off a little bit of that dingy buildup here. Yeah, this is Mother's Mag and aluminum polish. And again, we're going to get it with that buffing wheel just to really take off the rest of it. It's very mild abrasive. Just gives a little bit of shine. You know, we're, again, not going to be a factory finish, but that's okay. You know, there's gouges in it, there's scratches in it. Yeah, that's okay. Let's take a look. This is so much better than it was before. Never going to be great, but that's okay. That is so much better. Get a cleaner side here. Oh yeah. It's polishing up nicely for our purposes. Get off the edge there. I think it's just going to take some elbow grease to get in there through all of the different areas. But all in all, guys, we've got some decently shiny wheels without all of that grime and crust that was on there. You know, might as well hit it with the brake cleaner as well. And a fresh towel. Only the best here from our local Walmart. Non-chlorinated at least. But shake it good. Yeah, it actually does decently on that initial dingy layer inside too. All we're doing here is getting off all of this stuff, any kind of creams or compounds that we may have left on here. That's not so bad. And also gonna have to turn it over, do on the other side, because on the other side of this, of course, are our brake drums. And we want to make sure that obviously they're still going to be, well, we're going to hopefully get to reuse them, maybe, or the shoes at least, see if we can't reuse those. They seem to have a little bit of a layer left on them. We're going to get that. All right. All right. Well, we'll pause there, guys, and maybe we'll try to get a little bit off of one of these other tires as well, off the other tire as well. All right, so we're going to try to go ahead and get this tank off of here, but first I want to show you this key. This is a replacement key. One of the cool things about these bikes is that the keys are numbered, so it only came with the one original key, and I didn't really want to use that one frequently because it is the original, so I bought a replacement. Might buy another one now that I've tested this one works for the seat and the ignition and the gas tank. So, and we'll open them all. So we're going to go ahead and use that, with regularity because it's a nice new key and we don't damage the original one. We can keep that one nice. So let's go ahead and get this gas tank off. Looks like we're just going to need a socket here on this section, and I'll have to see if there's any attachment points somewhere else. All right, so we've got this 10mm socket here. Wasn't on terribly tight. We're gonna make sure that we hold on to this bolt, washer, rubber washer. Might have to get something to pry that off a little bit. And that was pretty easy. But now we need to find out where that other attachment point is somewhere else on the front of the bike. Might have to go to the manual for this one. So this same 10mm socket attaches to bolts under here. Can't hold the wrench and the camera at the same time, so I'm going to go ahead and put this down and get this tank off here. That's one on that side. Just a nut and the washer. One on this other side. Right. Now I can just unscrew this by hand. All right. Get the nut and the washer. Didn't lose that one, thank goodness. And let's see if this tank will lift off now. Nope. Must be. Oh, there's another attachment point under here. Nope, not done yet.
Luckily these bolts were well maintained, coming off pretty easily. And make sure to definitely put some anti-seize or some sort of lubricant on here so it'll come off next time. And tight quarters in here. See about getting that. Getting the socket wrench out. Proving more challenging than I thought. I'd have to tighten it up a little bit, get the socket out, and take it off by hand. So I'll have to go ahead and get a wrench for that one. Again, luckily I know now it's a 10mm. Super tight quarters in there. But at least I know what I'm dealing with. And one more turn. Should be able to, nope, no more. Just want to be able to get this by hand now. This is easier said than done, especially when you're doing it blind. There we go. Oh, there it goes. Must be another on the other side. There it is. Okay, we've got our tank off here. It's in pretty good shape. Flip it over here. Got these rubber pieces to keep it secured to the bike. These are all in pretty good shape. We're going to be able to save these, not need to replace them. I have to get these petcocks off here, get those degreased, see what we can do about those. But there are, we'll test it for water tightness. I don't think we have any leaks here. Looks pretty good. And we had already checked inside, though. I will grab a boroscope and look in there with that. But I think mostly we have a little bit of rust on the top. So we're going to soak this whole tank in vinegar and go from there. Then, you know, obviously neutralize the acid and kind of put some Marvel's mystery oil or something like that in there. We can see our carburetors now. Got a little bit better access to our electricals and to the engine. So this cleaning is also going to give us a little bit more access to other things we need to check out here. Before we can try to get this thing on the road, we want to make sure we've got all the parts we need and that everything is ship-shape. So one more step done in the process.
So this tank's been soaking for about a day now. Going to take it upstairs and rinse it out after we dump out this vinegar in the bucket. And then we're going to get some water and some baking soda in there to neutralize so that there's not any flash rust. Tried to make a makeshift plug for these petcock holes, but didn't really hold that much, but kind of helped to keep splash out off of my basement floor, which is good. Keep more of that vinegar in contact with the tank so it would get off that little bit of rust that's in there. Be interesting to see how much rust comes out into the bucket here, whether this mostly comes out clear or comes out with a lot of rust color in it. It's looking pretty clear so far. Oh, and now I got vinegar all over the This is probably not the preferred method, but it's what I'm working with here. Let's probably go a little faster if I also open up the gas can. I'll let the rest of that go out of there. All right. Wanted to share just a quick update on some of the things that have been going on here as we wrap up this cleaning episode. Lots of things have been cleaned and derusted, cleaned off this gas cap and smoothed it down, but I'm going to end up hitting it with some silvery chrome looking paint just to kind of fill in all these little rust spots and to make it a little more resistant to rust in the future. A lot of things have been through the rust treatment, but just aren't going to shine again, so they're going to get that kind of chrome looking paint as well. You know, a lot of these, again, have gone through the rust treatment several times. I'm just going to try to restore the shine. I also have another petcock that I need to take apart and clean. This one came apart very clean. I think it's going to work just fine when we put it back together. Really been a big fan of what's the use of this ultrasonic cleaner. I highly recommend it if you've got a bunch of greasy parts, especially off maybe a bike that needs full restoration, has been sitting a while. You know, just all that crud, you're going to get it up there off of the fasteners and out of these different components. This brake caliper was a real pain in the butt to get apart. Had to use an impact wrench to get it completely apart, but I found that the brake pads are still have quite a bit of life left, so I'm glad to see that. So if I can get this brake caliper working again, I'm going to spray some high heat black matte paint on everything except for where it says Yamaha on the outside, so that'll look nice, and then put the brake caliper back together and reinstall it on the bike. Though I'm also going to need to go and get the brake master cylinder apart, make sure that that's okay, and you know, clean it up and get a new brake line so the brake system will function properly. And then I also need to check out the rear brakes and see what we can do to get that working properly. So lots of little things, but there's also the tank. The tank has been completely cleaned out, and I found that there was one of the reasons why there wasn't so much rust inside the tank and it's just oozing out of the petcock is oil. They maybe the top still had a little bit of rust inside the tank, but not so much on the bottom because there was this fine coating of probably motor oil that had been put in there. But sanded all of the rust spots down and have cleaned it up as good as I can. Still need to get this decal off and put the new decal on before we'll spray the whole thing with some 2K Clearcoat. But at least we've already got it kind of prepped for that. Not going to try to repaint the tank and to try to make it look, you know, get the French blue color and make it look exactly as it was in 1976. I'm going to preserve, you know, the little rust spots. I'm going to preserve some of the history of the bike, but also make it so that the decal doesn't peel off. So, you know, the clear coat's going to go over the decal and also to protect it from further rusting. So you'll see some of that here in the next episode, but I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of Big G's Backyard Motorcycle Restoration. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, and we'll see you next time.